the Anunnaki, Nibiru Planet X, and the Book of Enoch, a critical examination of the evidence and the lack thereof. The Anunnaki, Nibiru Planet X, and the Book of Enoch are topics that have sparked curiosity and debate for decades, blending ancient mythology with modern pseudoscience. The Anunnaki, a group of deities from ancient Mesopotamian religions, are central to the mythologies of Sumer, Akkad, Assyria, and Babylon. They were seen as powerful beings who shaped both cosmic and human affairs. In the 10th century, author Zecharia Sitchin reimagined the Anunnaki as extraterrestrial beings from a hypothetical planet called Nibiru, claiming they genetically engineered humans for labor. While this theory has captivated many, scholars have largely dismissed it as lacking credible evidence. Nibiru, often called Planet X, is a hypothetical planet that has become a focal point for doomsday theories and ancient astronaut ideas. Popularized by Sitchin and later by conspiracy theorists like Nancy Lieder, Nibiru is said to have a highly elliptical orbit, bringing it close to Earth every 3,600 years. However, no scientific evidence supports its existence. The Book of Enoch, an ancient Jewish text, has also been tied to these theories, with some suggesting its descriptions of the Watchers and cosmic events align with Sitchin's ideas about the Anunnaki and Nibiru. Mainstream scholars, however, reject these connections as speculative and unsupported by historical or archaeological evidence. Despite the skepticism, these ideas have left a lasting cultural impact, inspiring books, documentaries, and online communities dedicated to exploring ancient astronaut theories and alternative histories. While the scientific community dismisses these claims as pseudoscience, their enduring popularity speaks to our fascination with the mysteries of the past and the possibility of extraterrestrial influence on human civilization. The Anunnaki. The Anunnaki are a group of deities from ancient Mesopotamian religions, prominently featured in the mythologies of Sumer, Akkad, Assyria, and Babylon. The name Anunnaki comes from the Sumerian phrase meaning princely seed or offspring of Anu, referring to the descendants of Anu, the sky god, and other major deities in the Mesopotamian pantheon. Their roles and names vary across different texts, but they are consistently portrayed as powerful beings who influenced human destiny, creation, and the natural order. Origins and historical context. The earliest references to the Anunnaki date back to inscriptions from the reign of Gudea, around 2144 BCE, and the Third Dynasty of Ur, around 2112-2004 BCE. In these texts, the Anunnaki are described as the most important deities in the Sumerian pantheon, often associated with a divine council that governed both cosmic and human affairs. They were believed to grant kingship to rulers, reinforcing the connection between religion and politics in ancient Mesopotamia. Role in Mesopotamian mythology. The Anunnaki play a central role in Mesopotamian creation myths, particularly in the Enuma Elish, which tells the story of the world's origins. According to these myths, the Anunnaki were responsible for shaping the universe and maintaining its balance, reflecting the Mesopotamian belief in a harmonious system where gods and humans coexisted. They also influenced human fate, as seen in the Epic of Gilgamesh, where their decisions directly impact the lives of Gilgamesh and Enkidu. Interpretations and modern theories. The Anunnaki have been interpreted in various ways over the centuries. In ancient texts, they are depicted as divine beings with creative and governing powers. However, in the 20th century, Zecharia Sitchin proposed a controversial theory that reimagined the Anunnaki as extraterrestrial beings from a hypothetical planet called Nibiru. According to Sitchin, the Anunnaki genetically engineered humans to serve as a labor force, mining gold and other resources. While this theory has gained popularity in some circles, scholars have criticized it for lacking credible evidence and misinterpreting ancient texts. Cultural legacy. The Anunnaki's influence extends beyond ancient mythology into modern literature, art, and popular culture. They are frequently depicted in ancient Mesopotamian art, such as the copper alloy foundation figures from around 2130 BCE, which show gods wearing distinctive horn crowns. In contemporary times, the Anunnaki have become a focal point in alternative history and pseudoscientific theories, often linked to discussions about extraterrestrial life and ancient astronaut hypotheses. Despite the controversies surrounding modern interpretations, the Anunnaki remain an important subject of study for understanding the religious and cultural foundations of one of the world's earliest civilizations. Nibiru, Planet X. Nibiru, also known as Planet X, is a hypothetical celestial body that has become central to various doomsday theories and ancient astronaut ideas. According to proponents of these theories, Nibiru is a large planet with a highly elliptical orbit that brings it close to Earth every 3,600 years. The idea of a catastrophic encounter between Earth and Nibiru, often referred to as the Nibiru cataclysm, was predicted to occur in the early 21st century, but no such event has taken place. The concept of Nibiru as a doomsday threat was popularized in 1995 by Nancy Lieder, founder of the website Zeta Talk, who claimed to channel messages from extraterrestrials warning of the planet's impending collision with Earth. This idea is often tied to the theories of Zecharia Sitchin, who interpreted ancient Sumerian texts to suggest that Nibiru is the home planet of the Anunnaki, a race of extraterrestrial beings who allegedly visited Earth around 450,000 years ago. Sitchin claimed that the Anunnaki genetically engineered humans to serve as laborers, a narrative he derived from his translations of Sumerian cuneiform tablets. However, Sitchin's interpretations have been widely criticized by scholars who argue that his translations are inaccurate and lack credible evidence. The scientific community has consistently rejected the existence of Nibiru, as no astronomical evidence supports the idea of such a planet in our solar system. Despite this, the Nibiru cataclysm theory persists in popular culture, often linked to broader conspiracy theories and New Age beliefs. The Book of Enoch. The Book of Enoch, an ancient Jewish religious text, has often been associated with theories surrounding the Anunnaki and Nibiru, particularly through the lens of Zecharia Sitchin's interpretations. While the Book of Enoch is not directly connected to Mesopotamian mythology, its themes of divine beings interacting with humanity have drawn comparisons to the Anunnaki narratives. The text, which is considered apocryphal by most mainstream religious traditions, describes the Watchers, a group of angels who descended to Earth and intermingled with humans, leading to the creation of the Nephilim, a race of giants. Sitchin and other proponents of the Anunnaki theory have drawn parallels between the Watchers of the Book of Enoch and the Anunnaki, suggesting that both groups represent extraterrestrial beings who influenced early human civilization. According to Sitchin, the Anunnaki genetically engineered humans for labor, a concept that some have likened to the Watchers' role in the Book of Enoch as teachers of forbidden knowledge. However, these connections are largely speculative and lack direct textual evidence from ancient Sumerian or Akkadian sources. The Book of Enoch also describes cosmological visions, including the movements of celestial bodies and the structure of the heavens, which some have interpreted as references to Nibiru or other planetary phenomena. However, mainstream scholars argue that these descriptions are symbolic rather than literal, reflecting the religious and cosmological beliefs of the time rather than evidence of extraterrestrial contact. Connections between the Anunnaki, Nibiru, and the Book of Enoch. The connections between the Anunnaki, Nibiru, and the Book of Enoch have been a subject of fascination and debate, particularly within alternative historical and extraterrestrial theories. These connections are largely popularized by Zecharia Sitchin, who interpreted ancient Sumerian texts to propose that the Anunnaki were extraterrestrial beings from the hypothetical planet Nibiru. Sitchin's theories suggest that the Anunnaki genetically engineered humans to serve as laborers on Earth, a narrative he derived from his translations of Sumerian cuneiform tablets. The Anunnaki and Nibiru in Sumerian texts. The Anunnaki are described in ancient Sumerian texts as a group of deities, often associated with the sky god Anu and his descendants. These texts, dating back to the 3rd dynasty of Ur, depict the Anunnaki as powerful gods who played a central role in Mesopotamian mythology, including creation myths such as the Enuma Elish. Sitchin, however, reinterpreted these texts to argue that the Anunnaki were not gods but advanced extraterrestrial beings from Nibiru, a planet he claimed was mentioned in Sumerian records. The Book of Enoch and extraterrestrial interpretations. The Book of Enoch has also been linked to the Anunnaki and Nibiru theories. The text describes the Watchers, a group of beings who descended to Earth and interacted with humanity, often interpreted as angels or divine messengers. Some alternative theorists, including Sitchin, have drawn parallels between the Watchers and the Anunnaki, suggesting that both groups represent extraterrestrial visitors who influenced early human development. Criticisms and scientific consensus. The connections between the Anunnaki, Nibiru, and the Book of Enoch are widely disputed by mainstream scholars. Critics argue that Sitchin's translations of Sumerian texts are inaccurate and that his theories lack credible evidence. The scientific community rejects the existence of Nibiru, as no astronomical evidence supports the idea of such a planet. Similarly, the interpretation of the Book of Enoch as evidence of extraterrestrial contact is considered speculative and unsupported by historical or archaeological evidence. Evidence and lack thereof. The Anunnaki theory, popularized by Zecharia Sitchin, suggests that an advanced extraterrestrial race from the planet Nibiru genetically engineered humans to serve as laborers. This theory is primarily based on Sitchin's interpretation of Sumerian cuneiform texts, particularly the Epic of Gilgamesh and other ancient Mesopotamian writings. However, the mainstream scientific community has largely rejected these claims due to a lack of credible evidence and inconsistencies with established scientific understanding. Sumerian texts and interpretations. Sitchin's theories rely heavily on his translations of Sumerian cuneiform texts, which he argued contain references to extraterrestrial beings and advanced technology. However, scholars have criticized his translations as speculative and inconsistent with mainstream Assyriology. The term Anunnaki is generally understood to mean princely seed or offspring of Anu, referring to the descendants of the sky god, and in Mesopotamian mythology. Scientific and scholarly criticisms. The scientific community has dismissed the Anunnaki theory as pseudoscientific, citing a lack of empirical evidence and contradictions with established knowledge. For instance, the existence of Nibiru, a planet with a highly elliptical orbit, has been debunked by astronomers. Additionally, the idea of genetic engineering of humans by extraterrestrials lacks any supporting evidence in the fields of genetics, archaeology, or anthropology. Cultural impact and reception. The Anunnaki, Nibiru, and the theories surrounding them have had a significant cultural impact, particularly in modern alternative history, New Age spirituality, and conspiracy theories. These ideas, popularized by Zecharia Sitchin in the late 20th century, have permeated various forms of media, literature, and public discourse, often blending ancient mythology with speculative interpretations of extraterrestrial influence on human history. Zecharia Sitchin and the modern Anunnaki narrative. Zecharia Sitchin's interpretation of Sumerian cuneiform texts, particularly his claim that the Anunnaki were extraterrestrial beings from a planet called Nibiru, has been a cornerstone of modern Anunnaki mythology. His books, such as The 12th Planet 1976, propose that the Anunnaki genetically engineered humans to serve as laborers for mining gold and other resources on Earth. While his theories have been widely criticized by scholars, they have captivated a global audience, selling millions of copies and inspiring a subculture of believers. The Nibiru cataclysm and conspiracy theories. The concept of Nibiru as a rogue planet on a collision course with Earth has become a staple of doomsday conspiracy theories. Despite the lack of scientific evidence, the idea has persisted, fueled by sensationalist media and online communities. The Nibiru cataclysm theory is often intertwined with Sitchin's Anunnaki narrative, with believers suggesting that the return of Nibiru will herald the reappearance of the Anunnaki. Scholarly criticism and misinterpretations. While Sitchin's theories have gained a devoted following, they have been widely criticized by scholars for their lack of academic rigor and misinterpretation of ancient texts. Experts in Mesopotamian studies argue that Sitchin's translations of Sumerian cuneiform are inaccurate and that his extraterrestrial interpretations are not supported by the historical record. Influence on literature and media. The Anunnaki and Nibiru have become recurring themes in literature, film, and television, often depicted as mysterious, powerful beings with advanced technology. These portrayals have further cemented their place in modern mythology, blending ancient stories with contemporary speculative fiction. Bonus Q as, can you explain the origins of the Nibiru Planet X hypothesis and how it became linked to the Anunnaki and the Book of Enoch? The origins of the Nibiru Planet X hypothesis can be traced back to 1995, when Nancy Lieder, the founder of the website Zetatalk, first proposed the idea of a catastrophic encounter between Earth and a large planetary object. Lieder claimed that this object, which she called Nibiru or Planet X, would either collide with Earth or pass dangerously close to it, leading to a global catastrophe. This hypothesis gained traction among certain groups who believed in doomsday scenarios, particularly in the early 21st century. According to these believers, Nibiru is a mysterious planet that orbits the Sun, completing one orbit every 3,600 Earth years and is on a collision course with Earth. The connection between Nibiru and the Anunnaki, a group of deities in ancient Mesopotamian mythology, was popularized by Zecharia Sitchin, an author who interpreted ancient Sumerian texts. Sitchin claimed that the Anunnaki came from Nibiru, which he described as a distant planet in our solar system with a highly elliptical orbit. He suggested that the Anunnaki visited Earth in the distant past and played a significant role in human history, including the creation of humanity. While Sitchin's interpretations have been widely criticized by scholars for lacking evidence and misrepresenting ancient texts, his ideas have influenced many who believe in the Nibiru hypothesis. The link between Nibiru and the Book of Enoch, an ancient Jewish religious text, is more tenuous and less directly supported by historical or scholarly evidence. The Book of Enoch describes celestial beings known as the Watchers, who descended to Earth and interacted with humanity, leading to widespread corruption. Some modern theorists have drawn parallels between the Watchers and the Anunnaki, suggesting that the Watchers could be the same beings described in Mesopotamian mythology. However, this connection is speculative and not supported by mainstream scholarship. The Book of Enoch does not mention Nibiru or Planet X, and the association between the two appears to be a modern interpretation rather than a historical or textual link. The Nibiru hypothesis originated with Nancy Lieder in 1995 and became linked to the Anunnaki through Zecharia Sitchin's interpretations of ancient Sumerian texts. The connection to the Book of Enoch is more speculative and lacks direct evidence. While these ideas have gained popularity in certain circles, they are not supported by mainstream scientific or historical research. Can you explain how Zecharia Sitchin's interpretations of the Anunnaki and Nibiru are derived from ancient Mesopotamian texts, and what specific sources or translations he relied on to support his claims? Zecharia Sitchin's interpretations of the Anunnaki and Nibiru are primarily derived from his readings of ancient Mesopotamian texts, particularly Sumerian cuneiform tablets. Sitchin claimed that these texts describe the Anunnaki as a race of extraterrestrial beings from a distant planet called Nibiru, which he located beyond Neptune in our solar system. According to Sitchin, the Anunnaki came to Earth around 450,000 years ago and genetically engineered humans to serve as laborers, a narrative he popularized in his books. Sources and translations relied on by Sitchin. Sumerian cuneiform texts. Sitchin based his theories on Sumerian clay tablets, which are among the earliest written records in human history. These texts, written in cuneiform, cover a wide range of topics, including mythology, religion, and daily life. Sitchin claimed that these tablets contain references to the Anunnaki and their interactions with humans. Lexical lists. Sitchin also referenced cuneiform lexical lists, which are ancient bilingual dictionaries that translate Sumerian words into Akkadian. These lists were used by scribes to understand and preserve the Sumerian language. Sitchin argued that these lists provided evidence for his interpretations of Sumerian terms, including Anunnaki and Nibiru. Mythological narratives. Sitchin drew heavily from Sumerian mythological narratives, such as the Enuma Elish, the Babylonian creation epic, and the Epic of Gilgamesh. He interpreted these stories as allegories for extraterrestrial intervention in human history. For example, he claimed that the Anunnaki's role in creating humans was described in these texts, though mainstream scholars dispute this interpretation. Astronomical references. Sitchin asserted that Sumerian texts contain astronomical knowledge far beyond what was possible for ancient civilizations. He claimed that references to celestial bodies such as Nibiru were evidence of advanced extraterrestrial contact. He also linked Nibiru to a hypothetical planet with a highly elliptical orbit, citing figures from ancient Maya astronomy to support his claims. Criticisms and lack of scholarly support. While Sitchin's theories have gained popularity, they are widely criticized by scholars of ancient Mesopotamian texts. Critics argue that Sitchin's translations are often inaccurate or speculative, and that he misinterpreted Sumerian terms and narratives. For example, the term Anunnaki is generally understood by scholars to mean princely offspring, or those of royal blood, referring to deities in the Sumerian pantheon, not extraterrestrial beings. There is no evidence in Sumerian texts of a planet called Nibiru beyond Sitchin's interpretations. Mainstream astronomy also rejects the existence of such a planet. Zecharia Sitchin's interpretations of the Anunnaki and Nibiru are based on his readings of Sumerian cuneiform texts, lexical lists, and mythological narratives. However, his claims are not supported by mainstream scholarship, which views his translations as speculative and often incorrect. While his theories have captivated public imagination, they remain controversial and lack empirical evidence. For a Wikipedia page, it would be important to present both Sitchin's interpretations and the scholarly critiques to provide a balanced perspective. What is the mainstream scholarly consensus on the Anunnaki, and how do they appear in ancient Mesopotamian texts? The mainstream scholarly consensus on the Anunnaki is that they are a group of deities within the ancient Mesopotamian pantheon, primarily associated with the Sumerian, Akkadian, Assyrian, and Babylonian cultures. The term Anunnaki Sumerian is often translated as princely seed or offspring of Anu, referring to their divine lineage from Anu, the sky god and chief deity in the Sumerian pantheon. However, the precise meaning of the term, as well as the number, names, and functions of the Anunnaki, remains ill-defined due to the limited and fragmented nature of the historical texts available. In ancient Mesopotamian texts, the Anunnaki are depicted as powerful gods who played significant roles in mythology, cosmology, and governance. They are often associated with creation, the establishment of order, and the administration of the universe. For example, Enlil, god of wind and storms, Ea Enki, god of water and wisdom, Ninhursag, mother goddess, and Sin Nana, moon god, are frequently mentioned as members of the Anunnaki in various texts. These deities were central to Mesopotamian religious practices and were often invoked in rituals, prayers, and myths. The Anunnaki appear prominently in Sumerian cuneiform texts, such as the Epic of Gilgamesh and other mythological narratives, where they are portrayed as divine beings with human-like qualities, including emotions, desires, and conflicts. These texts often describe the Anunnaki as residing in the heavens or the underworld, and they are sometimes depicted as judges or rulers over humanity. It is important to note that the mainstream scholarly community does not support the modern interpretation of the Anunnaki as extraterrestrial beings or the claims that they genetically manipulated humanity. These ideas, popularized by authors like Zecharia Sitchin, are considered pseudoscientific and lack credible evidence. Scholars argue that such interpretations are based on misreadings or selective use of ancient texts, and they are inconsistent with established archaeological and historical understanding. The Anunnaki are well documented in ancient Mesopotamian texts as a group of deities central to the religious and mythological framework of the region. While their exact roles and characteristics vary across texts, they are consistently portrayed as divine beings rather than extraterrestrial entities. The modern Anunnaki theory is not supported by mainstream scholarship and is regarded as a fringe interpretation of ancient mythology. How does Zecharia Sitchin's interpretation of Nibiru Planet X connect to the Anunnaki? And what evidence, if any, does he cite from ancient Mesopotamian texts to support his claims? Zecharia Sitchin's interpretation of Nibiru Planet X and its connection to the Anunnaki is rooted in his unique reading of ancient Sumerian texts. According to Sitchin, the Anunnaki were extraterrestrial beings from a planet called Nibiru, which he claimed orbits the sun in a highly elliptical path beyond Neptune. He argued that the Sumerian creation myths, as recorded in cuneiform tablets, describe how the Anunnaki arrived on Earth approximately 450,000 years ago. Sitchin's central claim is that the Anunnaki genetically engineered humans to serve as a labor force for mining gold and other resources, which they needed to repair their planet's atmosphere. He based this theory on his interpretation of Sumerian texts, particularly the Enuma Elish and other cuneiform inscriptions, which he believed contained coded references to extraterrestrial intervention and advanced technology. For example, Sitchin argued that the term Anunnaki, often translated as those who from heaven to earth came, referred to these extraterrestrial visitors. However, Sitchin's interpretations have been widely criticized by scholars of ancient Mesopotamian texts. Many experts argue that he mistranslated or misinterpreted key terms and passages, leading to conclusions that are not supported by the original texts. For instance, the term Anunnaki is generally understood by mainstream scholars to mean princely offspring or offspring of Anu, referring to deities in the Sumerian pantheon rather than extraterrestrial beings. Additionally, there is no evidence in the Sumerian texts of a planet called Nibiru or of advanced genetic engineering. Sitchin's theories gained popularity through his books, such as The 12th Planet, and documentaries like Unveiling Nibiru, Ancient Secrets of the Anunnaki Revealed. While his ideas have captivated a wide audience, they remain controversial and are not accepted by the academic community due to the lack of credible evidence and the perceived misreading of ancient texts. Zecharia Sitchin connected Nibiru Planet X to the Anunnaki by interpreting Sumerian texts as evidence of extraterrestrial intervention and genetic engineering. However, his claims are not supported by mainstream scholarship, which views his translations and conclusions as speculative and unsupported by the original sources. Could you provide an overview of the earliest known references to the Anunnaki in Mesopotamian texts and what roles they played in the mythology of that time?